Hey everyone, I'm Kyle Yates of the FantasyPros Football Podcast. Thanks for joining us. As always, you can find our brand new content every week at youtube.com/fantasypros, as well as on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And don't forget to like and subscribe while you're there. Let's dive right in, because today I'm talking about my top 10 players that could hurt your fantasy football roster in 2020. The players I'm about to mention are not bad players. They're extremely talented and can absolutely make contributions to your fantasy football roster this season. However, this is all about the cost of investing in them versus where they can finish. I'm not projecting any of these players to finish outside the top 40 at their position or anything ridiculous like that, but when you're on the clock, you might want to take a second and think about selecting the following players. Nick Chubb, Cleveland Browns. Nick Chubb just might be one of the best pure runners in the NFL. We saw what he can do last season behind a terrible offensive line, and the Browns made it a priority to fix that unit this offseason. With all that being said, Kareem Hunt's presence in this backfield limits Chubb's overall upside. Hunt will be the primary receiving option in this backfield and should see significant work on the ground as well. Without the receiving work that some of the other backs in the top 10 will have, Chubb will have to score double-digit touchdowns and put up over 1,300 yards on the ground just to keep up. He's currently being drafted as the RB8 in half PPR formats, and that's too high for me right now. Josh Jacobs, Las Vegas Raiders. I loved Josh Jacobs' film coming out of college, and he showed that he can be a top-end contributor for fantasy football right out of the gates last season. However, the issue with Jacobs being drafted right now as the RB9 off the board is his involvement in the receiving game. While the Raiders coaching staff has talked about getting Jacobs more involved, they've also spent this offseason bringing in multiple receiving options for this backfield. With Jalen Richard, Lynn Bowden Jr., Theo Riddick, Rod Smith, and Devontae Booker all on the roster still, it's hard to find a way that Jacobs will see more than 40 targets on the year. Le'Veon Bell, New York Jets. From a talent perspective, Bell can hang with the best of the best in the NFL. However, Adam Gase seems hell-bent on not utilizing Bell as a workhorse running back. Frank Gore has received a lot of buzz in training camp along with LaMichael Pirine. If Bell receives the majority of the workload, he'll absolutely return value on where he's being drafted right now. But with no guarantee that that's going to happen, plus the fact that this offense doesn't figure to be a high-scoring unit in 2020, it's probably best to look elsewhere in your drafts. DeAndre Hopkins, Arizona Cardinals. Hopkins is a top 5 talent at the wide receiver position in the NFL. However, he's now moving from an offense where he was peppered with targets to a team that likes to spread the ball around. Hopkins should still see enough work to finish within the top 10 at the position, but he's currently going off the board as the wide receiver 5. As long as Larry Fitzgerald is still on the field, he's going to take away the targets that would push Hopkins over the edge into a top 5 finish. I love Hopkins this season in Arizona, but I'm just simply not willing to invest all the way up at wide receiver 5 over someone like Chris Godwin. Mike Evans, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Evans has been dominant for his entire NFL career up to this point, but he's relied on the deep shots downfield to truly make his mark for fantasy football. Jameis Winston was willing to stand in the pocket the extra second longer to deliver the big shot to Evans and deal with the potential outcome of that turning into an interception. Tom Brady is a different quarterback than Winston. He's going to get the ball out quickly to whoever is open. This is what has led to Julian Edelman being a dominant fantasy option for so long in New England out of the slot. Chris Godwin, Rob Gronkowski, and O.J. Howard should all be peppered with targets this season, while Evans will still receive a few deep shots downfield if Brady likes the matchup. I have Evans as a mid-range wide receiver 2 this season, and he's currently being drafted as the wide receiver 8 off the board in drafts. I'm willing to let someone else take him at that price. Devin Singletary, Buffalo Bills. Singletary's a fun and exciting player to watch on the football field. However, there's no way that I'm investing in him from a fantasy football perspective this season at a back-end RB2 price tag. Singletary is not going to receive very many looks around the end zone, which means that he has to produce for fantasy football on the back of big and explosive plays. While he's incredibly elusive, he wasn't particularly effective out of the backfield as a receiver last year either. Zach Moss is a threat to Singletary's workload, and he'll remain in a change of pace role in this offense. Singletary's a fine flex play because of his talent, but he's simply not going to see enough volume to return RB2 value, in my opinion. Amari Cooper, Dallas Cowboys. Cooper has the talent to make me look foolish for putting him in this video by the end of the season, but it's difficult to look at the Dallas offense and find a path for him to return value on his wide receiver 11 price tag right now. With the addition of CeeDee Lamb to this offense, plus the ascension of tight end Blake Jarwin, it's very difficult to see how Cooper sees the necessary targets to finish within the top 12 at the position. If something were to happen to Lamb or Michael Gallup from an injury perspective, Cooper could easily shoot up into the top 5 at the position. However, we can't predict that or anticipate that when drafting. When you factor in Cooper's week in and week out volatility, there's no way I'm going anywhere near him to be my wide receiver 1 this season. T.Y. Hilton, Indianapolis Colts. Hilton's been a valuable fantasy asset in the past, but that was when Andrew Luck was at quarterback. Additionally, Hilton hasn't played a full season since 2017, and he's currently going off the board as the wide receiver 26. With the addition of Michael Pittman Jr. to this offense, plus the return of a healthy Paris Campbell, it's very hard to see how Hilton returns anywhere close to that wide receiver 26 value this season, even if he plays all 16 games. I'm perfectly willing to let someone else draft Hilton in 2020. Evan Engram, New York Giants. Did you know that Evan Engram has yet to play a full 16-game season in the NFL? While he was good for fantasy football back in 2017 and finished as the overall tight end 5, he did that on the back of 115 targets. With Darius Slayton, Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, and Saquon Barkley all healthy in this offense, there's no way that Engram sees anywhere close to that target total in 2020. Engram's a back-end tight end 1 at best, and he's currently going off the board in the 7th round of half PPR drafts. I recommend waiting on the position and getting Hayden Hurst 3 rounds later. Jared Cook, New Orleans Saints. Just like with Evan Engram, Jared Cook is going off the board in the 7th round of current half PPR ADP. Last season, Cook drastically outperformed based on the amount of targets he received. Cook scored 9 touchdowns on only 65 targets. For comparison, George Kittle only scored 5 touchdowns on 107 targets. Regression is coming for Cook now with Emmanuel Sanders added to this offense, Alvin Kamara back and fully healthy, and Adam Trautman drafted to be the future at the tight end position in New Orleans. You're betting on Cook hitting those ridiculous touchdown numbers again in 2020 for him to return value on where he's being drafted. Thank you for tuning into the FantasyPros YouTube channel. Don't forget to tell us what you think in the comments section below. And while you're there, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.